Hey everyone, it's Jen, and today I thought let's discuss the new Google Core update that just was announced that it's completed. Okay, so officially it lasted from August 22nd to September 7th, and I realized that was a week ago, but it usually takes a couple days to a week to start getting some information, or at least some speculation, if you will, from people in the SEO industry. So I wanted to show you this really interesting thing that I found from Charles Float on Twitter/X. I wanted to let you know if I was affected at all. And I have a funny story/new way to predict if your blog site will last long term successfully. Now, here are some main points that Charles Float mentioned on Twitter, and I found these extremely interesting. The first one is that this Google Core update was not a huge, big impact across all sites. The second one is that it actually gave another boost to sites that are already authoritative. So, big authority sites definitely seem to have won during this core update. Third one is there are lots of reports all over the place of AI sites being affected. Now, this is not a generic, oh, you used AI, so then Google smacked you. No, these are sites that are commonly referred to as one-click sites. They're basically unedited AI that has just spewed out tons and tons of articles in a particular niche. And these are very similar to the old AI sites that people used to commonly refer to as people also asked sites. These are the ones where basically it's a long string of questions that you would see in the people also asked section. So now the updated version of that is basically one click AI articles. They're not heavily edited. They tend to be very repetitive and sometimes contradictory within the same article. And honestly, if you're just using a one click auto blogger, you kind of deserve to get smacked. Now, he did mention that parasite SEO sites saw some drops, but mostly we're still doing well. You can look up parasite SEO if you want. And it does not seem to be affecting much for local SEO sites. These are actual businesses or services that purposely target localized searches. So it doesn't seem to affect them at all. One of the interesting things is Reddit and Quora are back with a vengeance. Now, you'll hear lots and lots of people tell you that if forums come up as search results, then they're low hanging fruit that you should totally go after them. Well, I've been saying for the last year that that's not necessarily true. And in fact, in a lot of opinion type questions that are asked to Google, it makes much more sense for forums to be the obvious choice of what people would want to read. So you'll see a lot of Reddit questions that end with, is blank worth it? And then you have a lot of people saying their opinion of whether or not this item or this service is worth it. And so it totally makes sense now that forums are coming back to the beginning of SERPs because people want personal experience. They want true, tried experience. Okay. And that's what I've been saying for a while is that if you can offer true experience and true knowledge of a product or service or even like an application, that's what's going to set you apart. Now, moving back onto my sites, I honestly have seen no real changes. I saw a very slight drop on the main site, which is site number 1. But honestly, I attribute that to Labor Day weekend because normally my traffic goes up on the weekends, goes down during the week, and goes back up on the next weekend. This time it didn't rise as high because I think it was a 3-day weekend. After the weekend finished, it kind of went through, and the following weekend it was back to where it was. So I don't think it was really affected at all. I think it was seasonal due to the holiday. Now, the site that Google absolutely hates, also known as site number 4, still hates it. It did not get kicked back on the field. But this is a pretty much one-click AI site, so it totally makes sense that this Google update did not help it at all. Site number 5, which I call the food lifestyle blog, that one, all of a sudden, the impressions in Google Search Console have really taken off. So this could be that it's getting out of the sandbox, but I mean, it's about 150% increase and it's still not fully indexed. But I noticed in the last week, all of a sudden 2 more articles that are over a month old all of a sudden are starting to get impressions. So we'll have to keep an eye on this one and see how the SERPs play out there. Site number 2, which is my passion project, it is just slow and steady. There's nothing messing with that one. Site number 3, which is my second biggest site, pretty much the same in Google Search Console, but it has gotten a huge bump in Pinterest lately. So obviously I don't attribute that one to the actual update. So have y'all been affected? Have you seen anything? Stay tuned for my fun story and my prediction. So my husband and I live in a very small town, and very regularly new food establishments set up, whether that's fast food, a sit-down restaurant, or like a store that sells food products. And we've determined that there's 3 main signs of success, okay? Good prices, good portions, and good taste, okay? Notice I did not mention anything about the style of food, the interior aesthetic, or the ambiance, or great marketing. And that is because as long as a restaurant or a food establishment has at least 2 out of 3 of these items, the odds of them succeeding and sticking around past a year are way higher than if they don't hit at least 2 out of 3. And this is what I mean. When was the last time you went to a restaurant and you're like, man, that was some really good food and I got some really great portion size, but the price was kind of expensive? Or, oh my gosh, did you see how much food I got for this amount of money? It wasn't the best, but I walked away full. So this is what we're talking about when it's 2 out of 3. As long as you can hit 2 out of these 3 points, your odds of sticking around are pretty high. Now, I noticed that these 3 questions could very well apply to niche websites, and this is what I mean. The first one is a good user experience, meaning did the reader or the customer get what they wanted easily? Did they trade their time for a worthwhile experience? Was it easy to find? Did they find exactly what they needed? The second one is, did they have lots of content to choose from? Meaning that once they go to a site, was there enough internal links to other relevant information in that topic to where if I wanted to go further, I had options to go to? And this doesn't necessarily mean you need to have 500 or 1,000 posts. It just means your website is not really going to survive if you only have 30 posts. And even Google has said, how authoritative is a 30-page website when someone could easily just create that in a month? Okay. The third one is, did the reader enjoy or learn from your content? Was it actually helpful? And this is where personal experience, just the personal journey associated with a question comes into play, because just spouting out facts isn't necessarily helpful. But if you show people the facts and you show actionable steps to complete the solution, or you give them good alternatives to what they're looking for, if you not only answer their question, but also answer the questions to come, you can really provide a helpful experience to someone. And I personally feel that if you can provide at least 2 out of 3 of these really, really well, then it's a good sign that your niche site or blog is going to last for the long term. Google has mentioned it on multiple helpful content updates, product review updates, that they are getting so much better at basically separating the crap from the actual real life experience of the product, of the journey, of the question. And this not only comes into your EEAT with now having experience, and I think that over the next couple years, Google is really going to double down on basically, when you're talking on your website, that you know what the heck you're talking about, that you're not just regurgitating information that's already out there. And you know what? Facebook groups, if you saw my previous video, are huge right now because they are true user experience oriented. People are constantly asking for recommendations, for solutions that are tried and true, because they just don't trust what they get from Google search, because yes, they can go search, how do I get rid of ants in my kitchen? And they may find a whole bunch of things, but they want somebody to actually say, hey, I tried this method and it did not work for me. Or I tried these other methods and they worked pretty well. Oh, and by the way, here's a really cheap alternative to this method that worked just as well, but cost a fraction of the cost. This is where we're going to. And if you've seen where Google says that 15% of all search results, or excuse me, search queries have never been seen before. More and more people are choosing to use Google like a personal assistant, and they're asking extremely specific, and they're looking for experience. They want to know that what they're reading is tried and true. So, what do you think about my prediction? Can you apply that to your site and say, am I really doing this to be helpful? Or am I just really trying to game the SERPs and get as much traffic as possible as quickly as possible? Because those are the people that they want to hit Mediavine within 6 months, or they want to hit AdThrive within a year, or Raptive now. But yes, you can gamify sites and you can gamify your strategy to beat Google. But in the end, especially with their rolling out their new perspectives and SGE and the fact that forums are coming back, I really think that Google is starting to be able to tell who is just like going through Amazon reviews and taking other people's comments and making it into something, and who's actually experiencing the product or the problem or the situation. So I really feel like if you can cover those and do it in a unique angle, that you will last in the SERPs for a long time. Whereas with some of these one-click AI sites, you may in Google Search Console be getting up there and getting your impressions, and the next thing you know, it's dipped down to nothing. And basically Google doesn't trust you anymore. So what do you think? Fact or crap? We'll see. Like I said, I'm not an employee of Google. I don't run an SEO content agency. I'm just giving you my opinion. So what's your opinion?